In the midst of the Clone Wars, the galaxy is a war zone, with each faction at each other's throats, and not a glimmer of true, pure democracy in sight. The Republic's struggle against the Separatists, led by Count Dooku and his formidable droid army, has escalated to unprecedented levels. As the war rages on, the Jedi Order, once guardians of peace and justice, find themselves thrust into a role that they were never fully prepared for: military leaders. The Order's focus has shifted from maintaining balance to leading armies in a seemingly endless conflict. Ahsoka Tano is a bright young Jedi during this time, but unlike the familiar history where Anakin Skywalker is her mentor, we will be exploring what would have happened if he had never trained her. So, everyone get ready, and let's dive right into this story as you cuddle up on your couch with your pet porg and your wonderful bowl of bantha stew. In addition, if you like what you hear today, we would really appreciate it if you like this video and subscribe to our channel, as every little bit of support helps us to continue making these Star Wars stories. Now, without further ado, let's hop right into what if Ahsoka Tano was never trained by Anakin. During the Clone Wars, a master who is familiar with Ahsoka Tano, one who knew her as a child, decides that he is going to take her under his wing. Now, her mentor ends up being Plo Koon, a Jedi Master known for his wisdom and battle expertise. Plo Koon's teachings are rooted in the Jedi traditions of discipline, strategic thinking, and a deep understanding of the Force. Ahsoka absorbs these lessons eagerly, demonstrating exceptional skills in both combat and leadership. She quickly gains respect and recognition among the Jedi, proving herself not just to be a capable warrior, but also a thoughtful strategist and philosopher. Plo Koon values patience and structure, believing that a strong Jedi must balance power with wisdom. His training focuses on honing Ahsoka's abilities in the Force while instilling within her a strong moral compass and a true understanding of the history of the Order, along with the dangers of the dark side. The bond between them is strong, built on mutual respect and shared goals. Plo Koon's guidance shapes Ahsoka into a formidable fighter capable of navigating the complex and dangerous terrain of war with her twin sabers. In contrast, Anakin Skywalker is at a crossroads. His prowess in battle is absolutely unmatched, but he is increasingly at odds with the Jedi Council, who disagree with many of his methods and philosophies about the Force. Anakin's impulsive nature and desire for recognition lead him to frequently clash with the Council's more cautious strategies. His discontent grows as he feels sidelined and undervalued. The Council's refusal to grant him the rank of Jedi Master only deepens this frustration. Anakin's growing sense of isolation makes him vulnerable to the manipulations of Darth Sidious, the Sith Lord secretly orchestrating events behind the scenes. Sidious seizes upon Anakin's disillusionment, offering him glimpses of power and influence beyond the Jedi's reach. Anakin's frustration and yearning for validation make him increasingly susceptible to the Sith's promises, especially without Ahsoka to ground him. The Clone Wars are not just a conflict between armies. They are a crucible for the characters involved, testing their loyalties, their beliefs, and their very essence. As Ahsoka leads her forces under Plo Koon's guidance, and Anakin battles his own demons, the stage is set for a dramatic change that will alter the course of their lives, along with the fate of the entire galaxy. The Republic's struggle against the Separatists reaches a critical juncture with the Battle of the planet Umbara, a crucial stronghold for enemy forces. The planet's rugged terrain and formidable defense makes it a key target for Republic military operations. Ahsoka Tano, now a skilled Jedi Knight, is assigned a pivotal role in the offensive. The battle is complex and high stake, with the outcome potentially tipping the balance of power in the entire war. Ahsoka's leadership is put to the test as she orchestrates the grand strategy of her forces against the Separatists. Her strategy involves coordinating a multi-pronged assault designed to exploit weaknesses in the enemy's defenses. As the battle unfolds, Ahsoka demonstrates exceptional tactical capacity, inspiring her troops and executing maneuvers with precision. Meanwhile, Anakin Skywalker, operating on a different front, is growing increasingly frustrated with the Jedi Council. His requests to participate in the Umbara offensive are repeatedly denied. The Council's decision is based on their concerns about Anakin's tendency towards reckless behavior, and they believe that his presence could jeopardize the mission, putting troops at risk along with the main objective. Anakin's sense of exclusion and betrayal deepens, fueling his resentment towards the Jedi. Darth Sidious makes a calculated move to exploit Anakin's discontent. Sidious reaches out to Anakin, subtly introducing him to Sith philosophy and hinting at the power that he could wield if he were to embrace the dark side. However, he's sure not to play all of his cards and continues to influence Anakin slowly. Sidious's manipulations play on Anakin's insecurities and ambitions, planting seeds of doubt and discontent. Plo Koon, leading a critical support mission, is severely injured. This injury forces Plo to withdraw, leaving Ahsoka to command the operation in his absence. The sudden loss of her mentor and mounting pressures of battle create a daunting challenge for the young Jedi. She must now navigate the complexities of the offensive and lead her troops without her master's guidance. Meanwhile, Anakin, feeling increasingly isolated and desperate, begins to entertain the dark side's promises more seriously. Sidious's manipulations become more insidious. See what we did there? Insidious. Driving a wedge between Anakin and the Jedi Council that continues to grow. The combination of Ahsoka's struggle without her mentor and Anakin's growing frustration sets the stage for a dramatic shift in the balance of power and the trajectories of both of their paths. As the War of Umbara reaches a critical stage, Ahsoka Tano finds herself under immense pressure. She's left to lead the Republic forces with limited battle experience on her own, and the battle intensifies with both sides entrenched in a fierce struggle for control. Despite her strategic prowess, Ahsoka faces mounting challenges. The Separatists are relentless, and the terrain of Umbara adds an extra layer of difficulty to the campaign. Ahsoka must navigate not only the enemy's forces, but also the treacherous landscape, which is fraught with danger. During a key phase of the battle, Ahsoka receives troubling news. Plo Koon's injuries are severe, and he may not survive. Despite her resolve and skill, the burden of command weighs heavily on her shoulders. Ahsoka realizes that if she does not act swiftly, the Republic forces could be overwhelmed, leading to a devastating defeat. In a bold move, Ahsoka decides to take a calculated risk. She devises a daring plan to prevent the enemy's counterattack by launching a preemptive strike on their command center. The plan is risky and requires more precise execution, but it offers the chance to turn the tide of the battle. Ahsoka must coordinate her troops with the fearless resolve of Commander Wolf, manage their morale, and ensure that every single detail of the plan is executed flawlessly. However, Commander Wolf is down for the task, and he inspires his troops to rally behind Ahsoka Tano's leadership and her precise plan. The forces launch the assault on the Separatist command center, encountering fierce opposition. Laser blasts continue to fire both ways. Clones and droids fall, along with the Umbaran protectors of their planet. The battle is chaotic, with blaster fire, explosions, and the sound of combat filling the air. Ahsoka leads from the front, leading by example, using her twin sabers and force abilities to slice through enemy lines and reach the command center. She deflects significant blaster fire, and at one point, she even saves the lives of many of her troops by deflecting a massive strike from the Umbaran technology with the Force back towards their strange walkers. Commander Wolf looks at Ahsoka and nods, thanking her silently for this help. In a pivotal moment, Ahsoka confronts a Separatist commander who attempts to thwart her plan, one of the Umbarans. Their duel is fierce and showcases Ahsoka's combat skills and strategic thinking. Despite the overwhelming odds, Ahsoka manages to defeat the commander with her prowess with the saber, slashing him up the chest and secure the command center. Even though the Umbarans fight fiercely, the clones fight even harder. The successful execution of her plan disrupts the Separatist counterattack and leads to a decisive victory for the Republic forces on Umbara. The victory is hard-won, and Ahsoka's actions are celebrated by all of her troops. "Well done, Commander," Wolf says, patting her on the back. However, the cost of the battle and the absence of Plo Koon have a profound impact on her, especially as she sees the lives of all of her troops that were lost under her command. The victory on Umbara is a significant achievement, but it also marks a significant alteration of Ahsoka's journey. With Plo Koon's injuries proving fatal, Ahsoka is left to mourn the loss of her mentor while continuing to lead the Republic forces by example. Her leadership is increasingly recognized, and she's promoted to a higher rank, entrusted with more responsibilities as a prominent general. The burden of command grows heavier as the war continues to escalate, and Ahsoka struggles to balance her duties with the emotional toll of her losses. Anakin Skywalker begins to fall to the dark side. His discontent with the Jedi Council and growing frustration with the war have made him vulnerable to Darth Sidious's continued manipulations, especially when he pulls at Anakin's heartstrings and tells him that he can help him save Padme, something that the Jedi would never do. His betrayal of the Jedi Order and his new allegiance to the Sith creates a rift in the galaxy's power dynamics. Ahsoka learns of Anakin's fall from news spreading across the war-torn galaxy. The revelation is a profound shock. He was once a fellow Jedi Knight, somebody who she had known, but not well, and a hero in the fight against the Separatists, lauded with praise and accolades by the Senate for his countless victories. His turn to the dark side represents a profound shift in the entire war's landscapes. Ahsoka's reaction is one of disbelief and sorrow. She feels a deep sense of betrayal and struggles to reconcile the person that she once knew with the dark figure that he had become. Her feelings are compounded by the realization that the galaxy struggle was now intertwined with her own personal journey. Anakins Fall represents not just the loss of a comrade, but a profound challenge to her own beliefs and values. As Ahsoka processes this news and watches as many people fall across the galaxy to the might of the clone armies as Palpatine and Anakin execute Order 66, she must fall away into the shadows. Her and Commander Wolf, who in this timeline she removes the inhibitor chip of, and watches as he helps her escape from the blasts of her fellow troops, much like she does in the normal Clone Wars timeline. She gets to safety with Wolf, and together they try to rethink a plan in the outskirts of the galaxy, wondering what could happen next. However, not every clone is satisfied as the Republic continues to transition into the Empire. So, she receives a significant amount of intelligence from people and clones within the military who were still thinking about defecting from the Empire and wanting to work towards something new. This includes Captain Rex and Commander Cody, both with prominent positions in the Imperial government's military. And they continue to feed her information, particularly with relations to Anakin Skywalker. At one point, she receives intelligence from Captain Rex about a secret Sith operation that Anakin is leading. Rex immensely regrets the execution of Order 66, and he sees the changes in General Skywalker, seeing that he's not the man he once was. No, this was Vader. So, he gives Ahsoka the information and talks about the deployment of a powerful new weapon capable of turning the tide of the war and the galaxy in favor of this new Sith regime. Ahsoka realizes that this weapon has to be stopped, and it's critical from preventing further devastation and loss. During this mission, however, as Ahsoka is sneaking through this base alongside some of her clone allies, particularly Wolf, some of the members of the Wolf Pack, and the Bad Batch, Ahsoka senses a dark presence in the Force. Nothing that couldn't be anything other than Darth Vader. Then she sees him and is shocked. She's sickened as she sees the twisted version of Anakin that is before her. Their confrontation is charged with emotion and tension as Ahsoka faces the dark figure of her former ally, now more machine than man after his battle with Obi-Wan Kenobi. She pulls out her twin lightsabers, knowing what had to be done, and knowing that she had to defeat Anakin Skywalker. Their battle is fierce, with Anakin saying not a single word and simply wanting her dead. Both of them channel their abilities in the Force to battle with one another, and this showcases the difference between Ahsoka's light side abilities and Vader's raw power of the dark side. Despite her best efforts, Ahsoka is unable to defeat Vader, who overpowers her with vicious lightsaber strikes and a mastery of the dark side. However, in the process of this mission, her clone forces manage to go and sacrifice themselves to disable the Sith weapon and disrupt their operation, turning the base offline and destroying any records that the Sith created. Vader gets distracted by these clones and manages to kill them on the spot, snapping each of their necks. The entire Bad Batch is demolished. Commander Wolf is stabbed through the chest by Vader as Ahsoka leaves. The successful completion of her mission is a significant achievement, but it comes at a personal cost for her. She's forced to confront the reality of Anakin's transformation, along with the challenges that it poses to her, and the death of her troopers. The death of her troopers, alongside that of Plo Koon, is decisive for her, and she feels a significant amount of grief. However, her resolve has never been stronger, and she becomes defined by her struggle against the dark side and her quest to reconcile with the loss of her mentor, the fall of her former ally, and the death of her troops. Later on in this story, Ahsoka begins to hear whispers of another Sith threat, a secretive dark side enclave known only as the Dark Nexus. The enclave is rumored to be a hidden stronghold where Darth Vader and other masters of the dark side consolidate their power and develop new, devastating plans for the galaxy. Intelligence reports suggest that the Dark Nexus is not only a center for the operations of the Sith and the Inquisitors, but also a breeding ground and a training place for new enforcers of the dark side under the oversight of the Grand Inquisitor. Desperate to strike a decisive blow against the Sith, Ahsoka decides to attempt to infiltrate this Dark Nexus. This decision comes with immense risk, as the Enclave is well protected and heavily fortified. To execute the mission, Ahsoka assembles a specialized team of ex-Republic operatives, including skilled soldiers, intelligence experts, and fellow Jedi who she knew were on the run and had encountered in the past. She calls on the expertise of Rex and Cody, who had now deserted the galactic government and went to follow their own paths. She also calls on the expertise of some former clone commandos that she knows, and even asks Saw Gerrera and his partisans for help. Her team is loyal and highly trained, but they're too haunted by the turn of the war and the ever-present shadow of the dark side. As Ahsoka's team approaches this mysterious Dark Nexus, which they discover to be Vader's castle on Mustafar, they encounter resistance. The Sith anticipated their move and are prepared for them with elaborate traps and defenses. As they attempt to infiltrate Vader's castle, the operation quickly turns into a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, with Ahsoka and her team navigating treacherous environments, evading Inquisitor patrols, and countering sophisticated security measures with the help of experienced clone commandos. More and more traps and dangers emerge as they make their way further into Vader's palace, the heart of the Dark Nexus. And Ahsoka must keep her calm, relying on her leadership skills and tactical capacity to keep her team focused and motivated. The key challenge in this phase is the revelation of an even deeper plot within the Dark Nexus. Ahsoka discovers that the Sith are not only working on new weapons here, but are also conducting experiments with Sith alchemy to create an army of dark side users who could potentially overwhelm the remaining Jedi in the galaxy, along with Republic sympathizers who the Empire is attempting to squash. When Ahsoka and her team finally breach the inner quarters of the Dark Nexus, there they see Vader standing before his throne, along with a group of Inquisitors who are smiling, ready for them, and excited to deal with this Jedi and her allies. Once again, Ahsoka ignites her lightsaber with resolve and looks into the faces of these Inquisitors. Once again, people that she had served next to in the Jedi Order. This time, she wouldn't hold back. She looks at Rex, she looks at Cody, and she looks at the ragtag group of clones and Republic infiltrators behind her, along with a few of Saw Gerrera's partisans, ready to take them on. They face off against this cadre of elite Sith apprentices and guards, resulting in another fierce and chaotic duel. Partisans line the floor, dead after the Inquisitors slay them quickly with their helicopter sabers. The clones are able to get out of the way sometimes, but many of them are slain. Rex engages in hand-to-hand combat with a couple of the Inquisitors as well, namely the third sister, Reva. Ahsoka's combat skills are pushed to their limits as she fights to protect her team and prevent the Sith from completing their sinister plans and pushing the galaxy into absolute and immense darkness. During this battle, Ahsoka is confronted by an Inquisitor who reveals the shocking truth to her, smiling, thinking that he is going to kill her. The Dark Nexus is not just a facility, but a hub for a larger darkside network that spans across the galaxy of more and more Inquisitors who are seeking to find and kill Jedi. Despite their efforts, the team is unable to completely dismantle the Dark Nexus, and the Sith escape with Vader in tow, with some of their most critical assets to this plan. The mission ends with mixed results, especially as the team is chased out by stormtroopers and other people in Vader's castle that have been tasked with its security. Ahsoka's team has successfully disrupted one of the major Sith operations, but they're forced to retreat. In the wake of their failed assault on the Dark Nexus, the galaxy continues to remain in a state of pure darkness, with the Sith's influence spreading, and the Jedi struggling to contain the threat and dying off continuously at the hands of the Inquisitors. Ahsoka Tano, now deeply aware of the gravity of the situation, is faced with a critical decision. The information gleaned from the Dark Nexus points to a final, decisive confrontation that could potentially end the Sith's dominance and restore some semblance of peace. Ahsoka leads a coalition of rebel forces after reaching out to some of the leadership, such as Bail Organa and Mon Mothma, in a desperate attempt to try and end this offensive from the Sith. While Ahsoka suggests going big and attacking Coruscant, the rebel leadership believes that this would be too far. So, instead, they go and send the rebellion to Jeddah in an attempt to try and preserve Saw Gerrera's group of rebels, even though they disagree with many of his tactics. Having an ally would be good. The stakes are higher than ever, with the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. When the Imperial fleet emerges atop Jeddah, Ahsoka feels something different. It's that same presence that she had felt long ago when Darth Vader had faced her for the first time, and she knows that here he would return. They would have to face off once again, and as rebels fight with Imperials across the city and on the plains of the desolate world, Ahsoka sees Vader. She looks at him in his dead eyes, with her green sabers ready to strike, and Vader sees Ahsoka. The confrontation is intense and emotional as Vader waits for Ahsoka to strike, which she does, flipping over him with multiple crazy acrobatic stunts and the use of her twin sabers. Ahsoka continues to grapple with the reality of Anakin Skywalker being consumed by the dark side, somebody that she had known well. The duel showcases the contrast again between Ahsoka's power in the light side, along with her newfound maturity as the course of the war had unfolded, and the rise of the Empire had seen the deaths of many people that she had cared about, along with Vader's embrace of the dark side. Both combatants pushing their skills to the limit. The duel is fierce, and they look at each other as their sabers clash. Amidst the chaos, Ahsoka receives unexpected support from somebody that she didn't know would be there. A strange group, not Jedi, not Sith, but Force fanatics. As Ahsoka is fighting Vader, a group known as the Guardians of the Wills come to their aid, not seeking to seek the kyber crystal that they had protected for generations, taken by the Imperials, along with this planet. The combined efforts of Chirrut Imwe, Baze, and Ahsoka lead to a pivotal moment where Vader is distracted by their strange nature in the Force, and while he's able to quickly shove them aside and focus on the battle again, still he's distracted, and Ahsoka manages to rush in and slice through Vader's mask, opening up a hole in his breathing apparatus. Then she attempts to stab him, but Vader parries the strike, and she only glazes the first little bit of his breathing support. This causes Vader to look at her with rage as he walks away, limping, followed by many of the attackers from the Guardians of the Wills. Vader had not anticipated resistance on the planet from people other than the small rebel group and Saw Gerrera's partisans, so he's forced to retreat alongside the fleet that remains in orbit. As Vader is running away, wounded and hurt by his mechanical impotence, Ahsoka decides to cast the final blow. She throws one of her green sabers towards the mechanical menace and cuts him right in half. Vader is so consumed by his anger and his willingness to persevere and survive that he doesn't sense the impending attack. He's only focused on the sole goal of escaping and trying to figure out how to kill Ahsoka in the future and crush these rebels. So, when he's sliced in half, his death is immediate, and he doesn't even notice as his body falls to the floor. The defeat of Vader is bittersweet for Ahsoka, as it marks the end of a chapter in her ongoing struggle against the Empire. This is a turning point in this war, especially since Vader and his forces had been defeated by a small rebel group and a tenacious Jedi. It leaves Ahsoka and her allies with a continued sense of loss and a realization that this fight was far from over. Yet, there was still hope for the galaxy at large. The aftermath of the climactic battle between Ahsoka Tano and Anakin Skywalker leaves the galaxy in a state of strange calmness. The once bustling world of Coruscant is now a little bit more under the eye of the ISB as they look for spies within their ranks and continued rebel activities. The surviving Jedi, although scattered and in hiding, start to rebuild their ranks in secret. The fall of Anakin has shifted the balance of power, but the victory continues to weigh on Ahsoka. She returns to Coruscant in a personal quest of sorts to try and find some peace. As she walks silently through the quiet of the Jedi Temple, which Sidious was working to rebuild into a Sith monastery, Ahsoka stands amidst some of the rubble from statues that she had once known as a child and a teenager, reflecting on the bitter victory that she had achieved. The halls that once echoed with laughter for her, and the teachings of the Jedi now seemed hollow, serving as a stark reminder to the cost of war. She gazes at a portrait of Anakin that lay on the wall, one that they had put up during the Clone Wars. Her former friend and someone that she had looked up to. The memory of who Anakin had been weighs heavily on Ahsoka's heart, and she wonders what he could have been like if he had stayed in the light, not a slave to Sidious's machinations. Despite her sorrow, Ahsoka knows the galaxy cannot remain in turmoil under the rule of the Empire. The defeat of Anakin has created a power vacuum and would likely cause Sidious to search for a new apprentice. And people scramble to fill the void of power that Vader had left. The Empire, though weakened, still holds sway, and Palpatine's influence persists throughout the galaxy. Ahsoka, determined to ensure that Anakin's legacy of darkness would not reassert itself, resolves to continue the fight against the Empire and the Sith who ruled it. She reconnects with some of the surviving Jedi and starts to try and form an alliance with her former Clone Wars allies, getting them more involved with the rebellion if they're willing, including influential senators and freedom fighters. The Jedi Order, though incredibly diminished, begins to take shape again under Ahsoka's leadership as she pulls and inspires people to come out from hiding and fight against the Empire. They work in secrecy, rebuilding their strength and preparing to confront any emerging threats. Ahsoka uses her knowledge and experience to train a new generation of Jedi, ensuring that the Order's values and teachings are not lost to time. The galaxy starts to see signs of change as Ahsoka's new Jedi Order quietly influences events behind the scenes, and the Empire seems to begin losing its grip on the galaxy. Systems that had once been under the Empire's control start to resist, inspired by the hope of a renewed Jedi presence. Ahsoka's leadership is pivotal in these early stages, and her actions sow seeds of a future where the galaxy can find peace once more. Ahsoka stands on a quiet, serene hill on the planet of Lothal, a place that holds significant meaning for her. The sun sets in the distance, casting a warm glow over the landscape. This peaceful scene is a stark contrast to the chaos that had engulfed the galaxy for as long as she could remember. Ahsoka gazes out over the horizon, reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. The sight of a new dawn symbolizes the hope that she'd fought for, the future that she'd worked tirelessly to create. The pain of losing Anakin and many of the friends that she had had along the way weighs heavily on her, but there's a sense of resolution and accomplishment in her eyes. As she looks, she sees a group of young Jedi in training below her, gathered around Ahsoka, their eyes full of hope and determination. These young trainees are the future of the Jedi Order, embodying the promise of a new beginning. They look up to Ahsoka not only as a leader, but as a mentor who had navigated through some of the darkest times to bring at least some light to their path.